we should just acknowledge it's not really a matter of debate whether or not you can shoot someone who's clinging to the wreckage of a ship. That's just against the Geneva Convention. I'll just leave it there. But Tom, go ahead.
Well, let's. Carl mentioned this video, so let's just step back for a second, and because I'm going to get a little conspiratorial, because in politics, it's if you believe in coincidences, you'll often find yourself acting naively, and so we have these Democrats who release unprompted this video that they put together last week or week before last, saying basically you can't follow any, urging the military not to follow any illegal orders. As Carl mentioned, Mark Kelly, Alyssa Slotkin, and some others were on the shows. I guess it was week before last, and were asked, "Are there any illegal orders?" And they said, "Well, we don't know of any." And then, the next week, 2 anonymous sources leaked this story to The Intercept and the Washington Post, saying that, "Oh, by the way, Pete Hegseth gave these 2 orders." So, is that a coincidence? I don't know. I'll leave it up to our listeners to decide if they think that that's a coincidence or not. I do think it is not clear, and it is important if Hegseth said kill them all, and this was, apparently it's an admiral at Fort Bragg who actually oversaw the operation, gave the initial order, and he might have been the one who gave the second order. In which case, he might
if there was a second order.
If there was a second order, no, I agree. This could just all be a hoax. I mean,
well, there was
God knows that our media has made it very, very difficult to take the stuff that they report at face value, particularly when it is attacking Trump's administration and it's using anonymous sources. So, I mean, all of that sort of almost goes without saying, but we probably should say it again because the media reacts to this stuff. People react. The Democrats are reacting to this as if it was, it's absolute truth. And we don't know that it's true at all. Pete Hegseth said to Trump, apparently said, "Look, I didn't do this." And we don't know what he means by that. That wasn't clear either. He did post this thing to X of Franklin, the turtle, like the cover of like a kid's book with like Franklin's got like an RPG and he's, shooting rockets down at these drug boats in the water, which to Carl's point, it's a little unseemly to be bragging about this stuff. I mean, I guess that's Pete Hegseth's way of doubling down on the policy and on whatever order he gave or didn't give. But that kind of stuff is like, really? I mean, it's just, it's a little over the top and certainly unnecessary, and I think makes a little bit of a mockery of what are pretty serious. It's a serious policy question. It's a serious legal question, and they should be taken seriously and treated that way.
And here's what I was trying to say about the gray area. We don't know that there were 2 orders given. We know that. And to Tom's point, caveat, we think we know, but we're going by what the press tells us, that there were 2 drone strikes. And what I'm saying is if the original order is, if the boat isn't destroyed, we have another drone. Then that, and that drone is, seconds later or minutes later, that's not the same thing as, shooting wounded men on the battlefield necessarily, because we don't know what the people who dispatched the drones knew. We don't know. My point is the original order to destroy this boat, period. To me, that's the fundamental thing we ought to be describing. That's what we ought to be debating. Is that what the United States should be doing? I say no. To me, it's a secondary issue. You disable the boat, then you kill these other guys, and you're saying, oh, but that's now a violation of the Geneva Convention because they were distressed sailors. But we don't know. There's nobody on the scene. You're doing this by robots. You're not. These are drones. There's not even pilots on the plane. So to me, it undermines the whole project. Is what I'm not excusing it as much as I'm saying I think the whole thing is wrong.
And so go ahead, Andy.
No, I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but
but you're going to. It's a war crime.
You don't want to conflate 2 things, Carl. That's what I'm saying. There is a debate over whether or not it's a good policy. There's a debate over whether or not it's legal to fire on these boats, although I think it probably is. It is not legal to shoot people who are in the water. And that's something that, I mean, people, because I say this because I know people are going to say about this show, they're going to say, oh, you know, they're drug dealers, we should just get rid of them, you know, we should kill them all. But there's reasons why we have rules of warfare, and it's important for us to think about them, because those could have been U.S. soldiers in the Mediterranean or in the Persian Gulf. And we'd expect our combatants to observe the rules of war. Anyway, Tom, I know I sound like a international lawyer, but go ahead.
You know, Carl mentioned these historical attacks. Well, you don't have to go back that far. In fact, you only have to go back to 2021, where Joe Biden, under his administration, his Defense Department launched a drone attack in Afghanistan. They thought they were killing an ISIS terrorist. Turns out they killed a guy who worked for a California-based NGO company, and killed him and 7 of his children. There were 10 people that died in that attack. 7 of them were little children. Mark Milley came out and called it a righteous attack. And for the better part of a year, the military insisted that they had done nothing wrong. It was all fine. And then finally, a year later in 2022, they announced, oh, oops, by the way, we're sorry. We actually did kill civilians, and, you know, we're really sorry. Nobody got fired for that. There were no war crime tribunals. There was nothing that was done. And by the way, there was no outcry in the media, as far as I could tell, either. Going back to look and say, you know, where was the, you know, investigation, and where were, you know, holding these folks accountable? So I just, you know, let's keep all of this stuff in proper context. And I always, 2 wrongs do not make a right. Okay. But I always got to point out, the double standards that exist are real, and they need to be taken into account here as well.